Welcome back, everybody. It's your boy Bobby Betts, back at it for another week of some UFC action. This week we got UFC 272 headlined by Colby Chaos Covington going up against his former friend, now turned foe, Jorge Gamebred Masvidal. And this card is going to be a solid little pay-per-view card. Is it worth the $75 that the UFC is charging us? Absolutely not. But we're going to watch it anyway, whether that be shoveling out the 75 bills and cutting into our return on investment from our gambling to watch the fights or stream it somewhere. One or the other. Anyway, just like always, we're going to be going up and down the card, starting off with the early prelims, all the way up through the main event. I'm going to give you guys my pick for each fight. And then at the end of the video, I will give you my picks, what I'm playing personally. Again, this is not financial advice. If you choose to tell me, that is your decision. Bobby Betts is going for his 6th straight week in the green and making money. So, as always, your decision, but your boy's hot right now. That's all I got to say. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. So we got the first fight on the early prelims, which is an absolute banger, like low-key. Like I'm surprised that this is what's headlining the early prelims. But we got Michael Oleksiejczuk versus Dustin Jacoby. Honestly, this one's going to be fought on the feet, pretty obviously. Dustin Jacoby is a pretty accomplished kickboxer, fought in glory, previously fought in the UFC. Now he's back fighting in the UFC and has been putting together a nice little career for himself now that he's back. Michelle Oleksiejczuk, I'm not sure if it's Michael or Michelle, so I apologize if I'm butchering names. Anyway, Oleksiejczuk is an absolute animal. He is a primary boxer. He's a very good pressure fighter, and he's going to want to keep it on the feet. And Dustin Jacoby is more than willing to oblige him in that. So in this fight, really, the way I see it, Oleksiejczuk is move forward at all costs. I mean, if you look at his previous fights, especially in that fight against Modestas Bukauskas, he had Bukauskas on the back foot the entire time, and that really pays dividends for him when it comes down to a decision, because he's the guy that's always moving forward, and he's willing to stay right in range, right in the pocket, and trade with you, and that's how he's been able to get so many finishes. I mean, the last guy that he fought was a Russian prospect. I forget his last name, but it ended in an OV, and you go back and you watch that fight, and he just broke him down in the first round, in his face the entire time. When the guy that he was fighting, when he felt the pressure, he would go in for a shot, because that's his bread and butter. And Oleksiejczuk just stuffed the takedowns and just continued to stay in his face and eventually ended up finishing him. It was a great performance. And much of his, if you go back and look at his body of work, a lot of his fights are the same way. It's Oleksiejczuk pressuring in his face, looking to land that left hand. And for a guy who's, I would consider small for the light heavyweight division, he's got a ton of pop in that left hand. So, against Dustin Jacoby. Jacoby's a tough one because Jacoby's tough to really get out of there early. He's a vet. He's been around. He's an accomplished kickboxer, so you know he chops the legs. He mixes it in. He's very methodical with his approach. You go back and watch the fight against Darren Stewart. You know, it was like a death by 1,000 cuts in the first round. Just picked him apart and eventually got to the point where, you know, he was wearing so many straight shots, he just broke down and ended up getting a standing KO in that fight. You look at the fight against Maxime Grisham, you know he's got a gas tank fighting against Grisham. That fight was pretty back and forth. Grisham knocked him down a couple of times. He fought through adversity and ended up getting the decision win. But in this particular fight, I'm going to be going with Michelle Oleksiejczuk as the underdog at plus 168. The reason for that, I think he's going to be able to pressure Dustin Jacoby. And Jacoby, if he wants to win this fight, is going to have to move forward and earn the respect of Oleksiejczuk, which I'm not saying he will at times, but he's too willing to fight off of his back foot. I think Oleksiejczuk's going to be able to put the pressure on him. He's going to be able to touch him. And if it's close in strikes, I feel like the judges are going to edge him in a decision because he's going to be the guy that's always moving forward. So I'm going with Michelle Oleksiejczuk plus 168. There's a lot of value in that line. I really think this should be closer to even. Honestly, they're just not giving Oleksiejczuk the props that he should get at this point in his fight career. I mean, everyone thinks that every win's a fluke, but man, this guy has shown no matter who he's fought, he's going to go out and execute the same game plan, and he's yet to be stopped. Moving on. Devontae Smith versus Ludwig Klein. this is another tough one. Klein's taking the fight on short notice, and Devontae Smith, pretty solid body of work and performances throughout the start of his UFC career. Little bit of a speed bump he hit in the last fight against Jamie Mullarkey. Ended up getting knocked out in the second round. But against Ludovic Klein, who a guy I was super high on coming into the UFC, coming over from M1, and a lot of the performances that he put together, fought some top competition over there and had a very impressive record. It came out against Young. I believe he missed weight in that fight, but he ended up finishing Young in the first round. But after that, the fight against Trezano and the fight against Landwehr, you start to see the holes in Ludovic Klein's game. So, Ludovic Klein, pretty crafty striker, good 1-2, good straight punches, and has very good leg kicks and very sneaky leg kicks. And that's his bread and butter. If you're a pressure fighter, if you're like Trezano, who's willing to walk him down, if you're like Nate Landwehr, who's willing to walk him down, get in his face, and make it a grimy fight, Ludovic Klein really needs space to land those strikes. And if you don't give him the space, then he's kind of lost. And I see that going the same way against Devontae Smith, who is more of a pressure fighter. A lot of the fights you go and watch of Devontae Smith, you rarely see him being the one that's being backed up. He's not going to give you too much time. He's got a nice crisp 1-2, much like Michael Trezano, but he's got more pop behind his shots than Michael Trezano does, which the only thing that really worries me about Smith is him catching a head kick or getting touched, because he does have the propensity to be knocked out, with Kama Worthy and Jamie Mullarkey both knocking him out. But I really don't see this fight being any different for Ludovic Klein than the Trezano fight, outside of he's probably not going to be able to land as many takedowns as he did against Trezano that he will against Devontae Smith. So I really got to edge Smith in this. He's the favorite, minus 155. And Ludovic Klein's taking the fight on short notice. So has he really had time to patch up the holes in his game? I'm not sure. I don't really think so. So I'm going to go ahead and go with Devontae Smith on that one, edging him in that fight. So moving on, Tim Elliott versus Tagir Ulanbekov. So this is an interesting fight, just because the line really isn't. The line's very deceiving. So if you look at Tagir Ulanbekov and you're just a casual bettor and you're like, hey, okay, his last name ends in an OV, he's got a good record, he's a heavy favorite, this guy should win the fight easily. I really don't think that's going to be the case. If you go back and look at Ulanbekov, who coming into this fight, he's fought Bruno Silva and he's fought Nascimento. Two guys that, based on his past track record, he should have steamrolled. Both close decisions, in my opinion. Tagir Ulanbekov got touched a lot in those fights. His ground game, which was supposed to be suffocating, was good. It was, better than Bruno Silva's, and it was better than Nascimento, but he didn't really do anything crazy that made you say, oh my God, this guy's going to be the next, Nurmagomedov. He's going to be the next Khamzat Chimaev. Like, no, he's a good grappler. He's, I would say, a subpar striker. He gets hit far too often, and it's pretty tough to be confident in Ulanbekov in really any fight moving forward. A matchup against Tim Elliott, it's a weird matchup because Tim Elliott's kind of awkward in his own right. I mean, that's his name on Twitter, is Awkward MMA, or whatever social media site he's on. Because he does everything very unorthodox, and he has a very unorthodox approach to striking. You see him, he switches stances a ton. He mixes in some oblique kicks and tries to keep distance, but he also has a decent ground game as well. And he's shown that off in his previous fights. I mean, he's gotten a win against Ryan Benoit, gotten a win over Espinosa as well. And in that Espinosa fight, he was pretty dominant on the ground. But against a guy like Ulanbekov, it's going to be pretty tough, to be honest with you, to beat Ulanbekov on the ground. Like I said, he's a good grappler. He's not a slouch. He's not a dominant grappler. Like, I expect there to be some good scrambles, but it's going to be tough because Elliott, I just don't see him being able to, like, he's going to hit Ulanbekov, but he doesn't have knockout power. Like, it's flyweights, it's tough. Not too many guys have that pop at flyweight unless you're like a Figueiredo. So it's tough. I think the odds are crazy. I think there's value in Tim Elliott. There's actually someone on Twitter, I would shout out their tag, but I have the short-term memory of a fly. They had a pretty cheeky prop bet for Tim Elliott by split decision at like some ungodly odds, like plus 1,600. It's honestly not a bad bet because I see it being a very close fight. And depending on how the judges see it, whether a judge is going to lean more towards like grappling control for Ulanbekov or Elliott's going to have more pitter-patter shots on the feet, I can see it being a split decision one way or another. So if you got Elliott by split decision plus 1,600, I mean, a nice little sprinkle, some pocket change wouldn't be a bad bet in that one. But if you're going gun to the head, who's going to win the fight? I'm going to say Ulanbekov, but again, minus 255 is just outrageous price for Ulanbekov. Be hard pressed to find me putting that. Definitely not putting together any straight plays with that, and definitely not a parlay piece. That's for sure. So I'll give him the edge, but really got to show something in this fight. Next fight, on the last fight actually, on the early prelims, we got Brian Kelleher versus Nurmagomedov. Now, these odds are also ridiculous. Nurmagomedov's pushing minus 715, almost a 7-1 favorite. Kelleher's coming in right around a 5-1 underdog, plus 500. But again, man, it's tough with this one to play it anywhere. I mean, I'm going to take Umar Nurmagomedov because I think he's the more skilled fighter up against Brian Kelleher. I think he's got real snapping leg kicks, and he throws them kind of in succession. Like, he'll throw a right kick and follow it up with a left kick. He'll stance switch. He'll throw question mark kicks. Like, he keeps you at distance really well with his kicks. And I think that's going to frustrate Kelleher. And ultimately, if it goes to the mat, I'm going to give anyone with the last name Nurmagomedov the edge on the mat. Let's be honest here, okay? Especially a guy who's a blood relative of Khabib, Nurmagomedov. So I'm going to give that to Umar on that one. I want to talk about Brian Kelleher because he's a dog. I like Brian Kelleher as a fighter. He's not afraid to fight anyone. He's a solid fighter all around. I've commented on Brian Kelleher's fight. I've picked Brian Kelleher in the past. In this one, it's a tough one. You got Umar Nurmagomedov, who's going to be, a top 10 fighter, top 5 fighter in that division for down the road. So it's a tough one for Kelleher. But yeah, I'm going to go with Umar Nurmagomedov. I think if Kelleher's got an advantage anywhere, it's going to be on the feet. He's going to keep it standing, and if he can get inside on Nurmagomedov, he could probably touch him. And he does got some pop behind his shots. I mean, we've seen him flatline Hunter Azure. He's got a sneaky guillotine, though, but if he guillotines a guy named Nurmagomedov, man, hell might be freezing over. That's all I'm saying. So I'm going to go with Nurmagomedov on that, but again, I am not going to be putting that into anything unless I'm trying to cut some juice down on a parlay. With that fight. So kick off the regular prelims. Now that we're done with the early prelims, we got Marina Moroz versus Maria Agapova. And this is another one of bitter rivalries. Another rivalry at American top team outside of Covington and Masvidal. You got Agapova and you got Marina Moroz. So in this one, I expect this one to be on the feet. Moroz is kind of a weird fighter because she throws a lot of volume. She's not really accurate. She doesn't really look for holes. She kind of throws her volume and rarely lands. If she does land, then it's a bonus. But that's kind of the thing with these judges is, volume and forward pressure and throwing strikes. If you're busier, they tend to lean towards you in a decision. So look for her to be very volume on the feet. On the ground, she's got like an ungodly amount of wins by armbar. She's like the other chick, I forget her name, that just fought, who she's like an armbar specialist. So what that tells me really is just if she goes to the ground, she's going to be looking to sweep for that armbar. And Agapova has mentioned it in the presser too. She's like, I expect her to come out with that armbar that she loves so much. Like, that's what she's going to be looking to do. And I really think that's going to be the case. And if it does go to the ground, I don't see Agapova being caught in an armbar, honestly. If anything, that's just going to look better for Agapova because she's going to have she's going to have control time. She's going to be on top. And it really wouldn't be in Moroz's best interest to stay down on the ground too long when her game is she should get up and she should be pressuring with volume and trying to get those points racked up and point fight for a decision win. Agapova, in my opinion, on the feet, has a lot stronger striking. She's one of those girls when you go back and look, like she just, like her strikes look a lot stronger than the typical female UFC strikers punches. Like she's able to sit down and she has some pop behind her shots. Like when she hits people, people do go down. She's got a lot of finishes on her record. Kind of a fluke loss to Shayna Dobson. She came in as an ungodly favorite in that fight and ended up losing to Shayna Dobson. So everyone's like, man, that's kind of tough. Comes back though against Sabina Mazo and gets a very solid win. Marina Moroz also has a victory over Sabina Mazo, so you can see where Sean Shelby and the matchmakers went with this one. Add in a little bit of a bitter rivalry, bad blood. You got yourself a matchup. So here we are. But Marina Agapova is minus 180. Marina Moroz plus 155. I got to give it to Agapova on this one. I think she's going to win. I think she's going to land the more significant strikes, and really, like, Moroz is going to be backed up when she gets hit. Don't see Moroz being able to get that armbar. Don't see Moroz, the volume, really being able to beat Agapova, who's actually connecting on her strikes. So any competent judge should see this one, if it does go decision, that Agapova wins the fight. But there is always that chance that if it goes to a decision, they side with the pitter-patter strikes of Moroz. So it's a tough one. I'm going to be staying away from it, but I got Maria Agapova in that fight. Moving on, we got Nikolai Negumereanu, I think that's his name, versus Kennedy Nzechukwu. These odds, plus 125 and moving for Nikolai in his favor. I think he's down to plus 115 last time I saw on DraftKings. Kennedy Nzechukwu, minus 135 now, came in at minus 145. This one, you got Negumereanu, who's 10-1, grappling. They talk about the wrestling and the grappling for him. That's his bread and butter. Recently beat Oleksiejczuk by decision in that fight, and he's, I would say untested and unpredictable. Kind of tough to cap him. I mean, in the camera fight, he was able to get takedowns, but it really wasn't the grappling that I was impressed with that fight. It was his ability to take shots and like walk down and land his power, because he throws some heavy bombs and he throws some heavy shots, but he just kind of kept, the whole time he walked him down, and he kept like a tight guard right here and his chin down, which is good. You want to keep your chin down, but he was just getting eaten alive by the jab and the straight punches, which worried me. But at the same time, the guy relentlessly just walked down the other guy for 3 rounds and ended up winning the decision. And he landed some pretty heavy shots on camera, and camera didn't go down, so I'll give him some credit for having a chin on him. But yeah, Negumereanu is kind of a tough one to really cap. But in this one against Kennedy Nzechukwu, who is a notoriously slow starter. I mean, you look at all of his fights. I mean, against Ulberg, he got off to a slow start against Ulberg, but ends up coming back and knocking him out. And then against Marquez was winning that fight until he wasn't, really. He was winning that fight in the first round. He backpacked him for 4.5 minutes, didn't get it finished. In the second round, took him down, had the control, and then he ended up getting knocked out in the later rounds, in the third. Then he goes out against Dong Ho, what was his name? God, I have it written down in the notes. Let me piece through this real quick. Goes out against Jung and looks like a lost puppy. Ends up getting knocked out in the first round, takes some heavy elbows. If you go back and watch, they got like a slow-mo replay on YouTube. If you go back and watch, not a lot of those elbows land, and he kind of almost looked like he didn't want to be in that fight. Like it was really odd, but he looked awful in that fight. So it's a tough one, because isn't Nzechukwu, he's the kind of guy that it seems like he just needs to get the sense knocked into him in the fight. So if he comes out and takes heavy shots against Negumereanu, is he going to fold like he did against Jung, or is he going to is it going to knock some sense into him and he's going to start fighting and he's going to end up getting the finish? So it's a tough one, but I mean, I like Negumereanu in this fight because I'm not too confident after that Jung performance that Nzechukwu is really that comfortable in the cage. I think he's benefited from the fact that guys have gassed out a little bit when they fought him, and he's able to put on the pressure late. But against Negumereanu, I think he's going to be able to land some heavy shots, and he's going to be able to mix in that wrestling, and I don't think he's going to get gassed out. I mean, it'd be pretty tough for me to side with Kennedy Nzechukwu when I think Negumereanu is going to be up 2 rounds going into the third if he doesn't finish him in the first or second. Like that's how it's going to be. It's going to end up being a late finish for Nzechukwu if he gets it, and Negumereanu is going to need to gas out because I think Negumereanu is going to walk him down. He's not going to be afraid to throw. Kennedy's not going to let his hands go because he's going to be afraid, and he's either going to get taken down, he's going to be defending position the entire time in rounds 1 and 2, or he's going to be losing the stand-up battle. So I got to side with Negumereanu on this one. I'm going to go with him as the underdog. And that is all I got to say about that. Negumereanu over Nzechukwu. Moving on, we got Marina Rodriguez versus Xiaonan. Now, this is a banger of a girl fight right here. Honestly, I'm surprised this isn't on the main card. I mean, it's kind of disrespectful that it's not even the featured prelim, to be honest with you. You got Marina Rodriguez, who's 15-1. Xiaonan, who's 13-2. Only loss in the UFC, Carlos Esparza. Which is not a bad loss. This is like a title eliminator, and we got it on the prelims, which is kind of whack. But Marina Rodriguez is minus 255 and has kind of stayed put in that general area. Xiaonan, plus 205, plus 200, right around that area. The line hasn't moved too much. This one's going to be fought on the feet, and Xiaonan's an excellent striker. Up until the Esparza fight, she had excellent takedown defense, but it's kind of tough. I mean, Esparza is going to expose you on the ground. I mean, as a wrestler, if it's going to be anyone, it's going to be Esparza. Like, you don't lose too much credibility points on that one with me if you lose to Carlos Esparza. Marina Rodriguez, powerful striker, pop behind her shots, very good fighter, very well-rounded. I would say she's more well-rounded than Xiaonan, more of a ground game than Xiaonan has. And in this one, it's going to be tough because I think they're both going to bang it out on the feet, and I think it's going to be a back-and-forth fight. I think Xiaonan, I'd probably give her the edge as far as quickness against Rodriguez, but Rodriguez is the bigger girl, and I think Rodriguez is going to be able to land some more powerful shots, and kind of like the Agapova Moroz fight, I think what it's ultimately going to come down to is Marina Rodriguez is going to land heavier shots than Xiaonan. Xiaonan might piece her up with, some quick shots, some pitter-patter, but I don't think she has the knockout power to knock out a Marina Rodriguez, and I think Rodriguez is going to be the one that when she lands her shots, it's going to be Xiaonan. The body language, she's going to get pushed back. She's going to be knocked off balance, and that's what the judges are going to see, and they're ultimately going to side with Marina Rodriguez on this one. Might mix in some grappling. I see her being the one that gets the control time up against the cage if they engage in the clinch. So I got to side with Marina Rodriguez on that one. With the line, maybe a parlay piece, but Xiaonan is a very good fighter, and I don't want that to be lost as well, because if she comes out and executes a good game plan and she gets in and out and she's piecing up Marina Rodriguez, maybe even gets a knockdown just by hitting her right on the off button, she could easily win that fight. So I'm going to go with Marina Rodriguez, but Xiaonan is a little bit of a live dog. All right, feature prelim, we got Jalen Turner versus Jamie Mullarkey. Another interesting fight. We got the Tarantula facing off against the hot Jamie, not sure of his nickname, Mullarkey. Mullarkey's put together some good fights recently, man. I'll tell you that. Against Fares Ziam, he kind of fought the fight at Ziam's pace and let him pick him apart. Ziam mixed in some takedowns, kind of threw him off his game, but Mullarkey has come back, has knocked out Kamaworthy, has knocked out Devontae Smith, and he's on a little bit of a hot streak, and he showed that, he's a good boxer. And I think he fell a little bit too in love with the wrestling and was like, hey, I need to get back to my bread and butter, which is I'm going to stand and I'm going to trade with these dudes. Against Kamaworthy, threw together very nice punching combination and ended up finishing it by touching that chin and knocking him out. Devontae Smith ended up getting the knockout in round 2 just with a flurry of punches. So against Jalen Turner, though, Jalen Turner's an interesting matchup for pretty much everyone in that division because he fights at lightweight, but he's 6'3", which is very odd. You don't get guys with that length at lightweight. I mean, there's just not too many of them out there. So it's going to be, a pretty tough matchup for anyone who fights Jalen Turner. But I think it's going to be a close one because Jalen Turner, he's a southpaw, which worries me. Against Uros Medic, he came out. He had a real great performance against him. Really just stopped the Uros Medic hype train in its tracks, but just being in his face, pressuring him the entire time. You could tell he was uncomfortable and just ultimately ended up finishing him off. Took him down to the ground, made him work, and then ended up piecing him up. And then Mullarkey, like I said, he's coming in. You look at the ZM fight, he's not afraid to trade on the feet. I think Turner's probably going to have the speed advantage in this one, but it's tough because I really see Mullarkey. I don't know what Jalen Turner's gas tank's like. I mean, he's got his fights where he wins, normally he finishes them off pretty quickly. You go back and look at his track record, he is, he's a finisher, which is awesome. But against a guy like Mullarkey, who he himself doesn't really get put down that much. I mean, he got put down against Alexander Volkanovski before he got to the UFC, but I mean, that's a guy that puts a lot of people down. Put Chad Mendes down. I mean, that's not bad. You're not in a bad club by being put down by Alexander Volkanovski. I mean, he fought to a decision against Brad Riddell, who's a very good kickboxer. So it's going to be tough. I don't know if Jalen Turner is going to be able to get Jamie Mullarkey out of there. And that's where I really think in the later rounds, Mullarkey's going to be able to grind down Jalen Turner. Like, I think it's going to be a close one in that respect. And that's why I'm going to edge Jamie Mullarkey in this one, because I don't think Turner's going to be able to get him out of there. And if Turner's going to win, he's going to have to get him out of there. So I like Mullarkey in that one, just being able to grind it down. I think you're going to see the momentum swing in the second round, really, of that fight. I think you give Turner the first. He's going to come out. He's going to look sharper. But Mullarkey, tough cookie, good cardio. You're going to come out and you're going to see him really grind Jalen Turner down in their second and third rounds. Get the victory going with the underdog there. Moving on. Now we got our main card, starting off with Sergey Spivak versus Greg Hardy. Stylistically, Spivak's got a huge advantage in this fight, but it's weird because Spivak is very much like Marcin Tybura, where he could get knocked out. He very could easily get knocked out. Like, stand-up's not his game. He's going to be looking to take the fight to the ground. Call him a polar bear for the reason. He's going to be looking to take it down, get a submission, ground and pound, the whole nine. Greg Hardy's going to be looking to keep it on the feet. Obviously, he prides himself on being a knockout artist. He's knocked out a lot of people in the past. You look at Juan Adams. Look at the Contender Series fights. You look at his wife. Hey-o! Have to edit that one out. Sorry, Greg. I just couldn't. Tiger got out of the cage there, man. It was just too easy. It's a layup. It was a layup. But anyway, Sergey Spivak against Greg Hardy. I got Sergey Spivak in this one, but the first round is what really worries me, to be honest with you. Because Greg Hardy has a chance to catch Sergey Spivak in the first round and really do some damage. If you look at the Tybura fight, that's really what happened. Tybura had to withstand a fury in the first round, got touched up a little bit, but then Greg Hardy tired out. He took him down, ended up choking him out. It was like clockwork. And Spivak's going to have the same thing. I mean, you're going to have to withstand, like, Hardy's going to throw heavy shots and he's going to have everything behind him. Spivak's going to be wise to try to grapple with him, get him up against the cage, kind of wear him down, and then try to get that takedown. Once he gets him down on the ground, he's got to keep him down on the ground and finish him off. So, I mean, I really don't see this fight going the distance. And I think that bet, like, for the fight to go the distance, you're going to make some good cash if you got that one, but you'd also be crazy to take it. So, I'm going to go with Spivak in this fight. I think he gets it done with inside the distance, but Greg Hardy always does have the chance to land some heavy bombs on Sergey Spivak and put him out of there in the first round. But again, I'm going with Spivak on this one. I like the wrestling. I like the cardio. And I don't like Greg Hardy's ground game. So Spivak on that one. Moving on, we got Kevin Holland versus Cowboy Oliveira. Cowboy Oliveira, kind of a wild guy, never afraid to fight. Pretty awesome fight against Yancy Medeiros if you want to go back and watch that one. But that one was from years ago. The recent Cowboy Oliveira has gotten submitted by Shavkat Rakhmonov. And just hasn't really been able to put together a winning performance in quite some time. Kevin Holland, on the other hand, the guy, I mean, he himself has not won in his last couple of fights. He had a no contest against Daukaus, which I thought should have been a win for Daukaus because it was incidental, but it is what it is. Commissions are the commissions. They're going to commission. And then Marvin Vettori and Derek Brunson, they just took them down and grinded out decisions. But again, those are middleweights, and those are two guys that are in the top 5 of the middleweight division. So do you really fault Kevin Holland for those losses? I don't. And he's coming down to welterweight to fight Alex Oliveira. So really, I don't see Cowboy Oliveira having too much of a shot against Kevin Holland. I mean, Kevin Holland showed against Daukaus that he's been working on his takedown defense. He does have the propensity to kind of chill up against the cage in clinch situations. But he's always calm, cool, and collected. I'll give that about Kevin Holland. He never is worried about being in danger. But I really see Holland being able to touch Oliveira up at some point and probably put him away, honestly. I think Oliveira, kind of a wild man when it comes to stand up. He is explosive, but again, I don't see him being able to put Kevin Holland down. And I also can see not Kevin Oliveira, just mashing the two together. Ridiculous. Alex Oliveira getting tired because of those explosive actions that he has. I mean, he does average close to 2 takedowns a fight. I think Holland will be able to defend him, honestly. I think Holland's pretty long, and I think Oliveira is going to be tough to really muscle him down to the ground. He'd have to, wrestle him technically in order to get him down. I don't see that happening, so it's going to stay on the feet, and the longer it's on the feet, the longer the fight goes, the more I favor Kevin Holland. So he's minus 320, almost a 3-1 favorite right now. Oliveira, you can get him at plus 250. I'm going to go with Kevin Holland on that fight, and he's one of the guys that I would favor heavily to win their fight on this card. Edson Barboza versus Bryce Mitchell is the next fight up. I apologize, I got an itch. I'm gonna grab some coffee, get the brain juices recirculating. All right, hop back into it. Edson Barboza versus Bryce Mitchell, another stylistic matchup. Barboza, sniper, just an assassin on the feet. Bryce Mitchell, cook him to the bone. Bryce Mitchell from Arkansas, going to wrestle you down, going to keep you down, might even try a twister. Just an absolute animal on the mat. Now, the key in this fight, I would implore you to, there's the word, that's the word of the day, is implore. I'm going to implore you to go back to YouTube and watch Edson Barboza's fight against Kevin Lee, and then watch his fight against Makwan Amirkhani. Both of those guys are better wrestlers than Edson Barboza. Edson Barboza's got solid takedown defense, but there's 2 styles of wrestling against Edson Barboza. You can choose to be Kevin Lee, who's going to pressure him and be in his face, not let him get comfortable, not let him stay at distance, grind him down and eventually finish him type of wrestling. Or you're going to have the Makwan Amirkhani fight where he lets Edson Barboza stay at distance, he lets Edson Barboza get his reads, he lets him get his shot off, ends up getting dropped, and then ends up going for a takedown in round 3, but it's too late at that point. This is style of the person he's fighting, Bryce Mitchell, is going to be more like Kevin Lee in this fight. So, although he beat Amirkhani, who's a wrestler, and he defended some takedown attempts, Amirkhani did himself no favors in that fight by not crowding the distance and really trying to grind down Edson Barboza. He tried to have this methodical approach where he was going to earn his respect on the feet. Outside of a little step-in shovel uppercut, he couldn't land anything against Barboza, had no respect, and Barboza just teed off on him, won the fight. Bryce Mitchell was going to crowd space. He's not going to let Barboza set his feet. He's not going to let him get comfortable. He's okay eating a shot as long as it's not one that's sat down on. So he, getting inside, he might eat a shot from Barboza. Barboza might tag him, but it's not going to be something that's going to put him down. And that's ultimately what I see is going to happen, is the same thing that happened in the Kevin Lee fight, is Bryce Mitchell's going to be in his face. He's going to be pressuring him. He's going to be able to get him down to the ground. Barboza might be able to get back up, but if I don't see Mitchell getting a finish in the late third, I got him winning a decision because he's going to take 1 and 2 easily. The only thing that I worry about is against Andre Fili did have a pretty good game plan against Mitchell and kind of frustrated Mitchell in his last fight out because Mitchell was able to get him down to the ground, but Fili kind of bided a little bit of time on the ground, not too much, but then he would explode on the sweeps and use all of his momentum, and he ended up on top a couple of times. In the third round, he was just too tired, and Mitchell was able to stay on top of him and get the decision. But going into that third round, it was 1-1, and Fili had a very good second round, and Mitchell was not able to get him down in the second, and he wore some heavy shots. But against Barboza, I don't know if Barboza is going to be as comfortable as he was against Makwan Amirkhani in that fight. And I think Mitchell's just going to be too much of a pressure in your face type wrestling approach for Barboza. So I'm going to go with Bryce Mitchell on that one. And we got our co-main event in the next one. We got RDA, Rafael dos Anjos, facing off against Renato Moicano, who's taking the fight on about 5 days' notice. So Moicano riding high off his victory against Anthony Hernandez. No, Jesus Christ. Alexander Hernandez. Alexander the Great Hernandez. Moicano won by sub in the second round. He's facing off against Rafael dos Anjos. So we've touched on Renato Moicano before in the Hernandez fight, but he not much has changed. I think he's solid all around against okay competition. I think every time he takes a step up, he flounders. And I think it's going to be similar in this case, unfortunately. He's an underdog at plus 145, RDA minus 160. I think that's a pretty solid line for RDA in this fight. I think we're giving Moicano a little bit too much credit. And really what I think it's going to come down to is Moicano, like I said, he likes to hand fight, he likes the low kick, he likes to jab, and he will land the jab against RDA, but RDA is going to be in his face, like a great pressure fighter, and he's going to grind Moicano down, and this fight's 5 rounds, it's not 3 rounds, so I really, really question whether Moicano is ready to go 5 rounds against RDA, a guy who's gone 5 rounds a lot in his career and has shown that he's got, king cardio, and he's a very good wrestler. Moicano's got good takedown defense in his own right and is solid on the ground, but I really think RDA is going to be able to take him down and keep him down, and he's also going to exploit a lot of holes in Renato Moicano's stand-up. He's also going to be the fresher guy because he's been in camp. Moicano's been in camp, and he really hasn't been out of camp too long, but you go from, celebrating a win to, oh, shit, I got to fight again and cut weight again. That's a tough task, and then you're going to set him up against Rafael dos Anjos, who's a grizzled vet, a very accomplished vet. Used to be champ. I mean, that's a tough matchup for anyone. So I'm going to go RDA in that fight. I got RDA all day long. RDA, RDL. And I just came up with that. I didn't think of that beforehand. That was right off the dome. All right, main event time. Colby Chaos Covington facing off against Jorge Gamebred Masvidal. Bitter rivals. Used to be friends, used to be best boys, used to live together, used to train together, the whole 9. Now they hate each other, at each other's throats. Just 2 animals, 2 wolves facing off in the battlefield. Honestly, it's really, the whole hype up of this fight has just kind of been ridiculous. I mean, it's been played out for too long. Let's just say, yeah, they don't like each other and they're gonna fight. But honestly, it's not gonna be this fight that everyone's like juiced up for, where they're just gonna go in and they're gonna be like bloody warriors just standing up and trading. Like, Colby Covington has good stand up for a wrestler, and he'll engage on the feet because he can't just wrestle the entire time. He wants to keep Masvidal guessing, but he's going to shoot for the takedown, and he's going to spam takedowns, and he's going to make Masvidal work. He's going to get him up against the cage, and he's going to grind out the fight. And I really see it being a boring fight, unfortunately, because Masvidal, he's going to need distance to be able to strike. He's got good takedown defense. He's a good wrestler. I will say that. A lot of people that say that he's, lost to Kamaru Usman, he doesn't have any wrestling, are idiots, because this guy has been around the block. He's a legend. Came up fighting in backyards, just like Kimbo Slice. Like, this guy is a fighter, and he's a gangster. He really is. I mean, this persona that he's put on because he's in the limelight now is it's starting to get played out, but I can't blame the guy. He's trying to make money, all right? Like, he's not going to act like the backyard brawler he once was. Like, he's got to, you got to put on the superstar act, even if it's not that great. It is what it is. But Masvidal, love him as a fighter, exciting fighter, electric. I really think his record, he could easily have over 40 wins right now at this point in his career. He's lost a ton of split decisions. Those fights could have gone either way. The fight against Iaquinta is just ridiculous. Like, he should have won that fight. It was a horrible decision. Just another piss poor judging performance in that one. But that one was years ago. Anyway, let's turn the DeLorean back to 2022 and make sure that we're talking about the present and not the past. So Masvidal, I think he has a tendency to get pinned up against the cage. Covington's going to grind him out up against the cage. Covington's going to take him down. He's going to try to get that ground and pound. I think Masvidal will have his moments where you get a little bit excited, but at the end of the day, I think Colby Covington's wrestling and cardio is going to prevail in the later rounds. I see him winning by decision. I don't see anyone getting the finish in this one unless Masvidal catches him. And Colby's got a decent chin. I mean, he's got TKO'd against Usman, but that was in the late rounds. And he broke his jaw in that fight. So this one, I'm going with Colby Covington. I want Masvidal to win, man. My heart says Masvidal, but my brain says Covington. That's really what it boils down to. So going to go with Colby Chaos Covington in that. He's a heavy favorite, so you'll see in the next segment in about a minute that he is a part of the parlay pieces because, like I said, I got to put my heart to the side when it comes to money matters, and we got to gamble with what's upstairs and not with what's here. All right? So, with that being said, that concludes the entire fight card. I am going to now give you my picks on my notebook, which I've been crunching numbers with all week long, trying to figure out what the best combos, what the best straight plays are, what's going to win me some bread. All right. So the first pick I got, I'm going to go through, give you guys my straight plays first, and I'm going to go ahead and jump into the parlays. So the first pick that I got is I'm going with the first fight on the card. I'm going 1 unit on Oleksiejczuk to get the job done, plus 168 as the underdog. Like I said, I like his pressure. I like that he's going to be in Jacoby's face. I don't think Jacoby's going to be able to chop that leg out from under him, and I think he's going to win. If he's not going to get the finish, he's going to win by decision because of the forward pressure. Next one, I got Negumereanu against Nzechukwu. I got a half a unit on him at plus 125. He's plus 115 now, so the line's moving in his favor, so you want to get that in quick. Again, a half a unit. I don't have too much confidence in him, but I do want a little bit of action on him. I think he's got good forward pressure. I think he's got good grappling, and I think Nzechukwu's luck has run out with these late round KOs. So I'm going with Negumereanu on that one. And then this one, I'm going to be honest with you, man. I might have had a little bit too many cocktails when I threw this one in, but I got a half a unit on Devontae Smith to get the win over Ludovic Klein, but I have him to get the win in over 1.5 rounds, which if you go back and look at his track record, he has not. Most of his finishes, and even the times he himself has been finished, it's all happened in under 1.5 rounds. But we're going to get plus 165 on that. Ludovic Klein is a dog. He moves a lot. I wouldn't be surprised if the fight drug out a little bit. So we'll see if Devontae Smith can get the win and we can get that over and we can at least last longer than 2 minutes, 30 seconds into round 2. We got ourselves a plus 165 winner. Luckily, only a half unit on that one, but that will net us some solid return. So that does it for the straight plays. Not too many on this card. Was a little bit hesitant with the underdogs, but like I said, I like Oleksiejczuk in that first fight against Dustin Jacoby. Now moving on, we got a ton of parlays, and we got a really weird concoction on some of them. So the first one is a normal one. We got Sergey Spivak and Kevin Holland. Parlay them together for 1 unit. You got plus 100 odds. So whatever you put down, you will win that same amount. So for this one, I will mention my unit size is going to be $50 for this card. Take it as you will. Call me a pussy. Call me a high roller. Whatever, what have you. But at the end of the day, that's what I'm going to be risking. $50 a unit. Moving on, we got Bryce Mitchell and Colby Covington. You parlayed them together. 1 unit down on it. Plus 110. Solid odds. The cook 'em to the bone pair. 2 heavy wrestlers. I like both of them in their matchups. Moving on, we got a 3-leg parlay, which again, I don't like 3-leg parlays. I threw one together in the last card and it hit, so I might be testing my luck on these 3-leg parlays. But I got Marino Rodriguez, Kevin Holland, and Umar Nurmagomedov all to win. That's going to get you plus 106. Again, I don't like throwing Nurmagomedov in because he's got such high odds, but it does chop down on the juice. If we were just going to throw Marino Rodriguez and Kevin Holland together, we're going to get like you'd be looking at like minus 110. So I don't like doing it. It's stupid because it's only a couple extra bucks, but I hate juice, man. I hate juice. The juice sucks. Get me over 100. So that gets me over 100. I think it's a fairly safe play. But, then again, gets knocked out in the first round. That whole thing just goes to shit. So, but anyway, that's the 3-leg parlay. 1 unit on that. Next one we have, we got the under 2.5 rounds in the Spivak Hardy fight. And I'm parlaying that with Rafael dos Anjos to win. That is kind of a cheeky one, but I saw the odds on the under 2.5 for Spivak and Hardy at minus 170, and it was just too tantalizing not to take that. I think that is a great bet, but again, minus 170, I'm not risking, 1.7 units to win 1 unit. You got to get me over the hump here. So tack on RDA, who's minus 165. You got yourself plus 152. And that puts a smile on my face, my friend. So we're going to put 1 whole unit on that little parlay piece right there. And then the last one that we got 0.2 units on the Hail Murray parlay of the week. and it's going to be the underdog show with Tim Elliott getting the win, Jamie Mullarkey getting the win, and then we're going to throw on RDA as well. That's a 3-leg parlay that's going to net you over 10-1 odds at plus 1051. Put not a tenth, put a fifth of a unit on it. 0.2. Put 0.2 on it. That's going to net you over 2 units in profit. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is my review and picks of UFC 272. As always, like, comment, subscribe. Got a few likes, not a lot of views, no comments yet. So if you are watching this, please comment on my video. Let me know what you think. If my advice was good, I shouldn't say it's not financial advice. So disclaimer there. So not advice. If my review was good, and if you think I'm an idiot, go ahead and comment that. I'm always looking for constructive criticism, and I will go back and forth with you and fight you tooth and nail and have a nice civil conversation to prove to you that I am right. All right, everyone. Catch you Saturday. Peace.